Hello, welcome to the Augmentation of Man. I am Renee Miller.
I'm Kent.
Today we're going to be talking about how the planetary cycles, the grand cycles, intercept with our higher self and our expanding consciousness.
Yeah, how it affects humanity as a whole. Right now, we're just talking about humanity, but it actually affects the whole universe.
And I have to say that for a long time, I thought of astrology as entertainment and didn't give it a whole lot of credit. But as we are learning more and more, we're realizing that indeed the planetary alignments and their vibrational influence have an effect on the events that can happen here on Earth. And it's all about our expanding understanding.
Which goes with astronomy.
Yes.
The study of the planets.
So everything is tied together. It's not separate. Science is not separate from our spirituality. The Creator created everything that is all connected.
This is what we have a hard time getting through to people. That science and spirituality are on the same plane, even though you don't realize it. But they are connected. They always have been, they always will be. So with that, we're going to start now with our presentation on the higher self and planetary cycles.
And we're going to switch this over to PowerPoint because we like to show you how the message actually comes through. We're going to quote it verbatim, give you the definitions.
What we feel is the definition of it.
Yeah, well, a lot of this is looking it up in the dictionary, even words that we are familiar with, because oftentimes they're being used in different contexts. And so we're going to present our interpretation, but you can decide for yourself how to interpret that message. So here we go. So planetary cycles and the higher self. This is part 3 of
the higher self series.
Yeah.
So what is the grand plan of the great cycles that we are coming into now? So it realigns the planets to balance the gravitational fields and the poles between each planet, and the creation of a new species will come about.
So what they have told us is that over eons, the planets tend to become, and the whole of creation really tends to become out of alignment. It drifts out of balance. And so you have new planets that are created, others that like suns that turn into supernovas and collapse into pulsars. So you have this whole drift of mass that evolves over a long period of time that creates imbalances. And then there comes a period of time when everything has to be brought back into balance. And it's usually about the same time in the grand cycle.
Yeah, and when they say it creates a new species, it creates a higher human. And you don't go from a human to a lizard, okay? The new species, any change in the intelligence and the higher consciousness of the human race is creating a new species.
Also, there will be, as these vibrational changes happen and things evolve to a new expression, that there will be insects, animals, different species that no longer are a vibrational alignment to the new Earth vibrational parameters. And so those will dwindle and they will become extinct. And meanwhile, we will have new species that will begin to emerge that will fit into the new parameters for the Earth vibration that's expressed here. So the gravitational fields are slightly different between the equator and the poles, and we are expecting, we've been told that those poles will move and the axis will be closer to zero, which will be more up and down. And so when you have the poles move, then you will have to have a rebalancing of the gravitational
As
fields.
the Earth slows, then the poles will change. It will not stop in the pole change. It'll slow down to a point that the poles will change. Then it'll begin to speed up again, which creates the balance.
So there's lots of things that are going to be affected, and there's a rebalancing of many things that are going on that we will be facing in the very near future.
How does it fit into the cycles of our own spiritual development? Spiritual resonance, essence of our soul's being, to be guided on neuronetical plasmic pathways to the location for higher self and worth. We just discussed this and what the actual meaning of it. A higher plasmic value, universal consciousness directed. And you want to explain to what we
Okay,
discussed
so
earlier?
these messages in quotes are the exact way that the message came through that Kent heard in his mind, and then he just repeats what he hears. So this can seem like very confusing at first, and we're going to break it down. So our spiritual resonances, everyone has their own vibration, what they put out, and it relates to your spirit vibration, but also your level of understanding. And that makes up the essence or the true basic nature of your soul. And that is going to be, we are being guided on a nerve-like plasmic pathway coming from the universe to expand our consciousness and to bring our level of understanding up. And through that, our vibration also becomes higher.
And what we discussed is you don't necessarily have to go along with this. You can put up resistance to be guided. And that's what humanity itself has done. Very recently, well, in the last few thousand years, you put up resistance instead of letting the higher self guide you towards your path and your self-worth.
And so when we talk about worth, the worth of our souls is based on how we are expanding in our understanding and our consciousness. And so when we get distracted here on Earth, which is an experiential learning plane, we get distracted with the material world and
the physical world,
and we're not working on the main reason why we're here in the first place, which is the learning. And so when we understand why we're here, what our purpose is here, then we can start to turn our focus from the material world, the physical world, to our spiritual development. And then we can increase the value of our soul, our higher self, which directs our learning process, to be able to really focus on expanding our understanding and consciousness.
Yeah, we need to put more emphasis on our spiritual being. I'm not talking about church. I'm talking about the spiritual self, as the native people put it, the Native American, the indigenous people practice the spiritual self.
So true spirituality is not limiting. We have to be able to think in new ways and expand in the way that we see things. And sometimes, certain organizations keep us in a box and don't allow that to happen. And so we end up not growing spiritually like we should be. So let's just delve into a little bit what this neuronetical plasmic pathways are.
It's a communication, it's part of the communication being itself of all the universe. It's much like our brain pathways.
Mhm. So if you look at our own bodies and our neurological pathways in our bodies, the universe operates much like that in how it communicates. And nerves are a communication tool within the body, right? The way we think, but also how our brain allows or works with the heart to make the heart pump, the lungs to make our lungs breathe, but also consciously how I decide to move my hand or to walk or position my body. It completely depends upon my nervous system. And when that nervous system is interfered with, then we have problems with being able to walk or talk, things like that. So when we talk about the universe,
yes,
think of it in terms of all this nervous network
the
that is
neural net.
in.
It's what we're talking about. The neural net,
Right,
where it gives the signals to the other
throughout creation.
yes.
And it's a communication network. So just like our bodies and our nerves are communication network, same in the universe. Throughout all of the space that we see out there in the cosmos is full of charged atoms that combine to form strings. And those charged atoms make up the plasma within the atmospheres. And this communication light travels on these plasma cords. And we have an ability to tap into that nervous network through our own to be able to receive information off that intellectual network, just like you're tapping into another larger brain. And to be able to receive this communication, to be able to understand things at our level. That's called the neuronet. And it all travels on plasma cords that are charged atoms throughout the universes within the atmospheres.
Okay. Our soul is connected to the universal plane. Okay. A physical plane is an irrelevant posture. It acquiesces to the pull of vibrational forces within the universal plane, connected to the cosmos by neural strand. And we talked about this physical plane between the spiritual and the physical. And this is where resistance comes in. We want to live in the physical plane being making more money, doing things that are physical with the body itself, and not giving much time to the spiritual aspect
of our existence.
So so it's irrelevant. It becomes irrelevant.
So this was a sentence, the first sentence, a physical plane is an irrelevant posture. I had to sit and really think about that for a minute, and it's not something that comes easily to mind, but what they're saying is that we are here to expand our awareness and our intellect and our consciousness. And it is, like we said previously, it is directed by the universal consciousness if we tune into it. But we are so distracted by the material world around us. So we surround ourselves with
just the whole world itself.
Yeah, it's everything. It's from, the politics that are going on, the division, the acquisition of material goods, going on vacation and doing things that are
Yeah. Now,
pampering
some of that is
to ourselves.
okay, but we're putting the majority of our
attention
on that rather than
Mhm.
the spiritual.
And so even, what's going on in our world with politics and what have you is such a distraction to what is really going on in the spiritual realm and what we're supposed to be learning. So our guide said, at one point said, to don't blame the government because we elected them to serve as a lesson to ourselves.
Yeah.
And so as we grow in our level of understanding, then we shift in our behaviors. And so we will next time, once the lesson has been learned, we understand and we choose something different.
Yeah.
So the object here is, what is the lesson we need to learn from everything that is going on in this physical plane? Not to criticize it, but to
learn from it.
say, I need to learn something from this.
Yeah.
And as more and more people, the masses, do the same, then we shift and we choose something different.
Yes.
And we move out of this paradigm.
Don't be locked into an emotional being.
Yes.
Okay.
So it acquiesces to the pole of vibrational forces within the universal plane. So we are, when you talk about planetary alignments, each planet creates a vibrational field and it interacts with other planets in different alignments. And that is kind of cast down or influencing what is going on here on Earth. And so it gives a potential for certain events to happen that will serve as lessons that we need to learn.
Yeah. So acquiesce to something is to surrender
Mhm.
to the pole of vibrational forces within the universal plane. And we just let ourselves, our higher self, tap into that. And that's
Yeah.
acquiescing it to
and we're connected to the
Yeah.
cosmos, which is the organized universal system, by a nervous strand.
Yes. These cycles not only affect the physical world, but the spiritual world also. So it affects both worlds. Yes, the connective tissue of the spiritual realm connects with the gases that form the physical world. Okay, everything is relevant to the positioning of the planetary factors that does the guiding.
And so what they're saying is the spiritual realm is connected to the physical realm by the gases. And so the gases form the physical world. So our bodies are made up of nitrogen and carbon and oxygen. And, it all boils down to, these are gases that have formed bonds to make material things, physical things, and our bodies being one. And so we are able to communicate with the spiritual world through these gases. And that is these charged atoms that form plasmic cords that connect the spiritual world with the physical world, called the neural net. And so everything is relevant to the positioning of the planets that guide our learning process.
Yeah, and that the positioning of the planets is throughout millennia, how humankind and others that have lived here on this planet before tend to look at things.
Yeah, when you look back in history, the kings hired their astrologers. They gave much more credit to the alignment of the planets and the potential for certain things, events to happen on Earth, and then they plan for it. And I can guarantee you there's probably a lot of people that are higher up in our world that do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, this world has always been based on the planetary alignments. The astrology, astronomy, whichever you want to call it, has always been there to guide the ways of this planet. They've constantly looked at this and they've built monuments to it to help guide their futures. So this is something that we have to, as a human race, have to look at. It's not just us, but this goes back for millennia and millennia.
And, I think too, I just have to add, there is a certain element of astrology that is for entertainment value.
Oh, yeah.
We have to look at the bigger picture. It's really about the learning, and that's where the focus should be.
The whole of everything. So why do we always seem to go backwards at the end of a cycle? Beginning of the end creates a beginning, a renewed cycle. I'm going to read this twice. The beginning of the end creates a beginning, a renewed cycle. The end of a way of thinking ties the two together. The beginning is always the end.
And so when you think of cycles, or think of like circular. This has to play out in a planetary sense where we are in the larger cycle. We're going through kind of like an oval type of orbit throughout our galaxy. And it's a circle, okay? When we get to the beginning of where we started, it starts a new cycle. It starts a new circle around the galaxy. And so our learning is tied to each cycle.
That means the end of a cycle is the beginning. So the end creates a beginning.
And it has to do with our way of thinking. So this last cycle was on perceptual learning. It's about our perceptions. It may not necessarily have to do with the truth. As we're learning now, this period of time is a revealing. The revelation, as in like the book of Revelations, that is the revealing that is being that is occurring now. And so certain events are playing out to show us that what we thought to be true really isn't true. And so we're having a revealing of the truth that's going on. And then we have to shift our way of thinking, because what we thought before no longer stands true. We have to open up our thinking process and our eyes to be able to accept a new truth.
Yeah, as I see it, this is the beginning, this is the end. Mm-hmm. Instead of thinking, okay, this is the end, and then we're going to the beginning. They overlap to a point that the beginning of the end, the beginning of this end, is the beginning, a renewed cycle here. Mm-hmm. So there is some overlap that creates all things together. They're not separated.
The two overlapping cycles.
Right. Is it correct to think that when we are merging from an end to a beginning, that this is a time of chaos? The aligners, those that have been there all along, are now coming out. They have been constantly trying to hold things together, to align things. So now the buoyancy of eternal being will prevail, the aligner's side.
So what does this mean? First of all, the aligners are lining things up for the next cycle. And they will begin to emerge, meaning it will become obvious that we're moving into a new cycle. And the buoyancy is, we're being pushed upward. There's some upward pressure on humanity to bring us up to a new higher level of operation.
Not all humanity will come up, unfortunately.
right.
But those that want to learn more, want to understand, will be pushed up to a new level of consciousness.
A new a higher level of understanding, and with that, a higher vibration, because vibration equates to levels of understanding. And so when we talk about eternal beings, those are the ones with eternal life. And there's a lot of chatter out there about everyone has eternal life, but what we have been taught is that is not necessarily true. There are beings that work in the negative that refuse to move forward. So if, for example, the whole purpose of creation is expanding consciousness, and these individuals are not expanding their consciousness, and this goes on for eons, for long periods of time, then we get to a part in the cycle where they are recycled because they do not fit into the purpose of the universe, where the expanding consciousness. And so since we're starting a new grand cycle, we're going to see a lot of this recycling happen of these energies that make up these entities who refuse to move forward and to become compliant with the purpose of creation. And therefore they know this on a soul level, that they will be recycled into an energy that is more productive and aligned to the universal consciousness. And so there's also souls that are not complete souls. They don't have, for whatever reason, they don't have a complete soul. But you know, they lack the moral aptitude. I'm sure everyone has someone they can identify that fits in that. And so these beings serve us lessons, and they help to expand our consciousness, but they themselves do not have the ability to expand in their own consciousness, and perhaps they will be recycled as well.
The civilization overlaps for a short period. Survivors move on to establish the new lands or the new areas. Bring some technology with them, crude technology that they bring with them to begin the new understanding and learning. Now, that could be from a civilization many thousands and thousands of years ago that brought over some of their technology, but just enough to begin the human race to start learning.
So I think we have to back up a step here, and that is when you have the end of a cycle, everything has to be rebalanced. And so that includes Earth, and that's going to include Earth movement in the form of earthquakes, volcanic activity, the poles shift, the poles moving to almost zero.
The land movements.
And so when you have all that happen, you're going to have a lot of land movement. You're going to have a lot of shift of the oceans, where they will be shifted over land masses, and you will have new land masses emerge in areas that were covered by ocean. So when that happens during this period of rebalancing, then there will be a lot of loss of life, and the survivors move on to establish these new lands that emerge out of the ocean, and they bring some of the basic technology with them.
So
in the process,
instead of starting just with the wheel, we'll start with a little higher application than just the wheel, to go into this new area of learning. Okay.
But with that, then, we're going to have reconnection with our star brothers and sisters, and
that's what's important.
New technology will be brought forward. And you can see now, even there's a big onslaught of new technology coming forward now with AI, medical advances. I mean, we saw some very new medical technology just recently. And then we have just all kinds of new inventions that will be coming forward.
So we'll bring a higher level of technology into this new world,
this new cycle.
And
more to come.
And that'll be great. So
yes.
Anyhow, with that, I hope you understand. We tried to break this down as much as we could to help you to understand what they are talking about. And it's difficult.
Sometimes, I mean, we've been dealing with this for a number of years, and it's sometimes still tough for us.
Yeah, we'll discuss it. We'll argue over it and discuss it till we come to well, that sounds very reasonable then, to a point.
And sometimes I have to ask Kent to go back into meditation so that we can get some clarity from our guides as far as what something means when we can't figure it out.
So with this, I hope you understand and read for yourself. We put out a couple of books that may help you understand this, and it may confuse you more. I'm not sure, but with this, we're trying to break each part of this book, these books that we put out, down so you can, when you read it, you can understand it, and the meaning and the value behind it.
And we will have those books at the end. So it's the Augmentation of Man series, and we have the authors as the ancients and professors of higher realms of understanding. So you can check that out on Amazon if you are interested, and we will have more at the end of this video.
And we'll keep giving you new information as I receive it.
If you know of others who'd be interested in this type of information, please do send it on, because that helps it get out there too, and subscribe, and you'll receive this as the new videos come out. And don't forget to hit the bell too, so you can be notified when they come out. Thank you for joining us, and as always, peace be with you on your journey to enlightenment. Have a great week.